Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
And now I'd like you to all give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Johnnie H.
Hi everybody, my name's Johnnie and I'm an alcoholic. Hi Johnnie. I'm glad to be here tonight and I'm glad to be sober. I'm glad to be in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm always pleased when there's new people in Alcoholics Anonymous, the two most important things that happen to Alcoholics Anonymous to me have already happened. I mean, you had people, well, one guy celebrating a birthday, then you had newcomers, and the significance of that to me is you have people looking us over to see if this thing works, and then you have somebody stand up here and take a birthday cake for 6 or 7 years or whatever it was, and it proves to them that it does work. And probably in all the history of mankind, the only time that there's ever been an answer, except for a brief period in the 1840s for alcoholics of my type, where one alcoholic talks to another, is right smack dab in the middle of the situation. They're in this little window of time in the history of mankind, and this disease is written back for 7,000 years. The only answer for any continuing sobriety for any length of time for a number of people has been in this little period of time from 1935 up to the present time. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous. And people like my people who drank whiskey, a lot of whiskey, and made whiskey and things, most all of my family died as a result of alcohol or drinking alcohol, or their death certificates and their things and what they were died from were never shown up on the death certificate. I had an uncle that was beaten to death in a coal mine in the Kansas State Penitentiary. I had a grandfather who died because that corn whiskey that he made froze his kidneys and he couldn't drink. I had my namesake uncle who got drunk and tried to fly an airplane. He didn't know how and never been up in one, but he stole an airplane and took off. It just, I mean, so one right after the other, God, they went to penitentiaries, they lived in all kinds of things, and my mother drank herself to death, and my dad drank himself to death. And as far as the history of my family knows, that I know that I'm probably the only person in my family who's ever been sober for any period of time. And that has nothing to do with me at all. It has nothing to do with my family. The reason I'm an alcoholic, it doesn't have anything to do with it. That doesn't make me an authority on a program of Alcoholics Anonymous. It doesn't make me anything more than an example that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous works, because I haven't had a drink of alcohol or a multi-altering chemical in my system since sometime before the 4th day of November, 1959. And prior to that, I could not live in a world without something to take the edge off, something to give me that sense of ease that comes with taking a couple of drinks that the doctor wrote about in our book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous on the 4th day of November, 1959, it very nearly became my last meeting, because I was sitting in that meeting that day and people started to talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, start talking about being sober, and my first reaction to that is that Alcoholics Anonymous has nothing to offer me. And the reason I didn't think that is because I was as physically sober then as I am right now. And so I didn't think Alcoholics Anonymous had anything to offer me, because being sober had always been my problem. Now, I didn't know that. I didn't know that to the alcoholic, drinking's not the problem, sobriety is the problem, and drinking is the answer. See, I did not know that. sitting in that first meeting. All I knew was that I didn't want to be sober. All I know is that I just wanted to lay down some night and sleep without waking up in the middle of the night with the terrors and the nightmares of my past extenuating and just sitting there in front of me. I just wanted to lay down and what I would have died for, I didn't know that. And like, if you're new, you probably don't know what you want out of life either. Because I had no reference point to living in some degree of peace and comfort without some type of alcohol or chemical in my system. I had no reference point whatsoever for that. I never knew. It was never a point of peacefulness with me without it in my system. It was always a restlessness and an irritability and a discontentment and some type of a bad attitude kind of thing and some type of violence and all the things that go along with those kind of deals. And I never wanted to drink anyhow. I never wanted to drink alcohol because I sit in the ringside seat and watch my people drink themselves to death. I sit and watched all that stuff, and my reaction to that was that I didn't think alcohol was bad. I just thought that I shouldn't drink it because I didn't like what it did to them and the way they reacted when they drank it. So my answer to that was simple: I'm not going to drink it because I don't want to act like they act when they drink. And Kim was talking about being self-centered, and my eyes always turned inwardly. I never saw anything else going on. I could always, me and mine and this and that and the other, and my whole perception of life was something's wrong here. I don't belong here. I'm in the wrong type of place. I got to find some way to get out of this situation. I need an answer for this thing that's mine. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I know I need an answer, for Christ's sakes. I don't know what to do about it. What am I going to do? And so I started looking out. I started looking for a long, long time. A long time ago, I started looking out there. The potential. I mean, God, you want to kill an alcoholic? Tell them about their potential. Oh, you've got potential. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Up here somewhere. I've got it. But you see, but a guy like me, restless and irritable and discontent, I don't ever feel like I belong anywhere anyhow. And I've got this emptiness inside of me I can't put my finger on. I don't know then, as I've come to discover in these years in Alcoholics Anonymous, that those are symptoms of this deadly disease that I'm afflicted with called alcoholism. Those are just symptoms of it. And I don't understand that. And so I'm looking for a way out of this dilemma. My first exercise in finding a way out of my dilemma was with my grandmother, who went to church all of her life. My grandmother never drank alcohol. She lived till she was 90 years old, never took a drink or smoked a cigarette in her life. So I don't know. My grandmother went to church all the time, and she came back from there better than she went. And that's all I know. And so my idea was, maybe I should just go sit with Grandma and be like Grandma. But according to what Alex read here tonight, and what I have come to encompass and believe in my own life more than anything else tonight, that the delusion that I'm like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. See, I'm not like my grandmother. My grandmother's not an alcoholic. My grandmother is not alcoholic. I'm alcoholic. And by no wild stretch of the imagination have they ever figured out any way to make me like my grandmother. Nobody knows why I'm not. None of the great geniuses in the world have been able to figure out where this madness is called, the denison of insanity called alcoholism comes from, and why maybe only 1 out of 10 people who drink have it. How this little minority group of people who drink alcohol get this reaction, this deadly reaction from it, and I didn't know that. But I understood it when I took a drink because it did something for me. Sitting on the back porch of my grandfather's house, I took a drink of his whiskey one day. That's all. And it launched me into a sea of insanity and degradation and depravity that you just cannot quite possibly imagine in your mind. It's almost hard for me to understand that. Now, I didn't take a drink and go out and start attacking people on the street. I'm a little kid. I'm 8 or 9 years old. I'm drinking this whiskey, and I did what I did. 3 days later, I came to underneath a bridge somewhere. And they pulled me out from underneath there and stood me in front of a judge and sent me to the Westchester State Reform School. 20 years later, I took a drink of alcohol. They pulled me out of a car and confiscated me in front of a judge and sentenced me to 20 years in the penitentiary. That's what happened to me when I drank. And standing in front of that judge 40-some years ago, standing in front of that judge, if you'd have said to me, do you know you're an alcoholic? I'd have hit you. If the judge would have said that to me, I'd have tried to climb up on his bench and attack him. Because I don't know what's wrong with me. I've built up a lot of images around me because I run in and out of institutions. I lived in gangs in the streets. I did all the things. I've been using heroin for 14 years. I'd had all these different type of images back behind me. I've been diagnosed by leading therapists and psychiatrists in the state of California with all types of emotional disorders. One of them told me I was clinically insane. Man, you can ride that for a long way. I mean, it's kind of like a badge of wonderfulness in the institution. People leave you alone, they think you're nuts. You know what I mean? Well, I was nuts. I had a name. I run around with a lot of these Mexicans. I was raised by Mexicans. They call me Hueto Loco. That's the white nut. I mean, you can just get your teeth into that and hang on out there like you really know what's going on. And I sat still in that. Well, what really happened was a little over 40-some years ago. I came to in a cell in solitary confinement in a maximum security penitentiary, drifting in and out of total insanity. So I'm 26, 27 years old, and everything in my life is gone. Everybody in my life is gone. There wasn't anybody left in this world that would send me a penny postcard. They were all gone. They should be gone. I don't have any right to have anything good and decent in my life because I was lucky enough to stumble into a room and get sober. See, the minute I start having rights, I'm going to have to start defending them. In my book, Alcoholics Anonymous, we have it down there in Long Beach, it says that I have to cease to fight anything or anybody. That's what it says. I didn't write it. It's what it says in the book. And the fight's all gone from me. I don't fight Alcoholics Anonymous, or a thing about it. Sitting in that room that day in November 1959, when you good people drove up those old back roads and spent 2 hours talking to us, I sat back there and leaned up against the wall. I like to call that my throne of contempt. I'd sit back there with my coat collar up and my shades on because I'm cool. If I'd have been any cooler, for Christ's sakes, I'd have probably froze to death when I got here. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm not alcoholic. I sat there and asked the guy sitting next to me what it was we were in. They had two big A's up on the backboard. I thought it was some type of an anti-aircraft brigade or something. I didn't know what Alcoholics Anonymous was. Nobody ever mentioned that to me. If they had have, if they'd have said something by that to me by the time I got into all that nonsense, I probably wouldn't have understood them anyhow because I'm so busy trying to figure out what's going on that I don't know what's going on anyhow. And I sat there in this room that day and I didn't know what I was looking at, but I was looking at the thing I'd sold my soul for. I was looking at the answer that I'd sold my soul for. But you see, I didn't recognize the answer because I don't know what's wrong with me. It's hard to seek the answer to a problem if you don't know what the problem is. And I didn't have a clue what was wrong with me. Not a clue. Nobody had ever said to me, you're alcoholic. All they'd ever said to me, you shouldn't drink. You shouldn't smoke these things, Johnnie. You shouldn't shoot these things. You shouldn't swallow these things. If you didn't do those things, you'd be okay. See, what none of those people ever took into consideration was that every time they told me that I'm physically sober as I am right now, I'm sitting there staring at them. I want to say things like, good God, doctor, don't you understand? Don't you understand, for Christ's sake? Make it 1951 again. Make it early 1951, before my baby brother got into some of my poison, took an overdose of and died. Make it 1951 again. Take that day away from me when I'm standing handcuffed between them two detectives underneath that tree outside their gravesite while they're burying my baby brother and my mother staring at me with those eyes full of hate. Take that all away from me again. I won't have to do this no more. Remove these nightmares from me so I can go to sleep without some type of a chemical additive in my system to make it easier for me. Take all those things away from me and I probably won't do this. See, I don't know that, so I just look at them and hate them because I know they don't know. I know they ain't got those answers. And they say things to me like, I understand. I say, no, you don't understand. How in the hell would you understand? You ever been out there in them streets? You never had to look your people in your eye and feel that remorse and that guilt? You never had to sit around there and try to choke back them tears that you can't have because you're too hip and too keen and too cool and too bad to have tears? You ain't supposed to have no type of feelings. You don't know what that's like. You're normal, whatever that is. You're one of the superior people in the world. I'm one of these little inferior people in the world. I don't know what's going on. See, that's what I'm thinking all the time I'm sitting. I don't say that. I just nod my head and say, he don't know either. He don't have a clue. I'm doomed. I'm doomed because nobody will describe the madness that I'm living in. I must be crazy, or this must be hell. It must be something like that. I don't understand that. Every day is the same as yesterday. Tomorrow is going to be like today, and today is hell. And I get out there and live and run and rip and roar as fast as I can, as hard as I can, and every once in a while they come along and capture me, the big wild thing out there, and lock me up for a period of time and beat me and electrocute me and do things to me that I can't understand. And they tell me this is to help me with my attitude. And all it does is make me angry, more angry and more angry. And so there I sit in this meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it don't look like to me it's the answer. I'm sitting there, I don't know what it is. And I figure to myself, I should sit around and wait for these women to get up and tell their racy stories so I can have somebody to make fun of. That's what I'm looking for when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous. Looking for another group of people to hate because I've run out of things to hate, people to hate. So I sat in that meeting that day. And what I saw and what I heard probably hadn't anywhere near the resemblance of what I heard or think I heard, because my mind did not track too well, and my mind was looking for people to make fun of. I want to hear these women got up to talk, the old people. Well, they must have been 50. They're old, and I know they were old, and they looked old, and they acted old, and they said things like, I used to drink, you know. And I said, I bet you did. Bad stuff, too. Drank for a long time, these people. Some of them had drank for Jesus, longer than I'd been alive. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand them getting up in the morning and driving up to this institution either on Sunday and spending 2 hours talking to a room full of people like me who didn't want to listen. People who thought I should be there to make fun of them. I didn't understand for a long, long time how sick that is. How very sick it is to sit in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting with your life absolutely and totally gone, and you're making fun of people who are living good lives. There's something sick about that. Something sick about sitting in a penitentiary, making fun of people who are leaving in an hour when you're going to be there for the next 20 years, for Christ's sakes. There's something very sick about that. Kim described it better than anything. Oh my God, I thought maybe you dropped the set of your ring or something there for a moment. The selfishness and self-centeredness of the alcoholic is beyond description. The absolute and total inability to care or concerned or have any other thought process outside of ourselves is absolutely and totally amazing. That is the insanity of the disease of alcoholism. The book says that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of all of our problems. We must be rid of it. It's going to kill us. We must be. It doesn't say anything about alcohol being our problem. It doesn't say anything about drugs being our problem. Drugs is an outside issue anyhow. It doesn't say any of that stuff. It says that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of all my problems, and I must be rid of it. It kills me. Now, I don't know that sitting in meetings. I got a lot of problems, but selfish and self-centered is not one of them, because I don't know what that is. The psychiatrist told me that I had a narcissistic personality. That's, one where you look in the mirror and fall in love with your reflection. That's what he described to me after I leaped across the table at him, for Christ's sakes. So I sat in this meeting that day and I looked at these people and I don't understand why they're driving up there anyhow. I don't understand why people would do anything like that, but I understand why they were doing it today. They were doing it because they were given a little for the hell of giving it. See, I had never looked at people. I had never seen anybody in their life who ever gave any just for the hell of giving it. See, I'm always hanging around takers. That's why I'm a loser. I just hang around these people who are always taking things. I'm not hanging around people who are doing anything or giving anything just for the hell of giving it. Everybody that I'm around does anything, they got a hook out for it. You come up with something first. I've got a kick out of Kim standing around giving people drinks out of her locker, for Christ's sake. Not me. If you got a drink out of my goddamn locker, it'd cost you $5 before you got a drink. You give me the money first. That's the way I live my life. I don't be sharing nothing with nobody. At least my good stuff. And if you get any of the bad stuff, you pay for that too. And that's the way I lived. I didn't understand. I didn't know that sitting in that meeting and looking at these people that day. But I sat in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous long enough because I couldn't figure out what they did, why they did these things. I couldn't figure out what the hell these people, why would anybody do that? Why would anybody get up and give up their Sundays and drive up those rooms, those old roads, and walk into these penitentiaries and sit down in a room full of these convicts, these dregs of the earth, and sit there and talk to them about God and things? Why would they do things like talk to them about how they used to drink, now they don't drink anymore, and how they lived a good life, and how they got a home and a family, and how their kids come to see them, how they put their grandchildren on their laps, how they do all these. Why would people do stuff like that? And see, these people aren't talking about me that I got to be saved. They're talking about all the crazy crap that they did, and they come in and sit down in this program called AA, and something happened to them. They quit drinking. And my reaction to that, as sick as I was, I'm not alcoholic then. Look at all the good things that's happened to you just because you quit drinking. See, that's how self-centered I am. All I can hear is they quit drinking and all these good things happen to them. And my justification for that is I'm as physically sober as the guy saying that. So my reaction, my honest reaction to that is I'm not alcoholic. See, if I was alcoholic, all I'd have to do is not drink and I'd be okay. No, if I have a problem with alcohol, all I got to do is not drink and I'll be okay. If I'm an alcoholic, drinking is the solution, sobriety seems to be the problem. And over any given period of time, it becomes so unbearable that I can't stand it and I must drink, I must do something, or else I'm going to blow my brains out. I heard Kim talk about that. Can't drink, can't stay sober, the solution is death. And they used to say when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous that there's 3 answers for the alcoholic, at least the alcoholics I wrote that book for. Death, insanity, or this program. And I'm not sure that all 3 of them aren't peace. Because my last time out, I ended up in the old Los Angeles County Jail, dead on arrival. My last time in front of a psychiatrist, I was diagnosed clinically insane. I was never supposed to live outside of an institution without some type of psychic medication in my system because of my violent nature. And I've come to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I've lived in Alcoholics Anonymous all these many years. Well, anything in my system stronger than an aspirin. So I do know this program works. The greatest thing that ever happened to me was I sit in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous in my defiance because I had nothing better to go, and my curiosity got the best of me. Why in the hell would people do things like this? What do they get out of coming up there? What is their deal? I'm going to find out what it is. I sit there, and one day I found out a little guy walked in that I knew did 23 flat years in the penitentiary and stood at a podium very much like this on a Sunday afternoon and gave me the greatest piece of information that I have today or will ever have. He told me in simple terms that I didn't have to live like this anymore if I didn't want to. He says, you don't have to do it like this no more. Nobody ever told me that. He told me not to do this.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
But they never told me how to live without doing it. That's the secret. I didn't know how to live in a selfless world. I did not know how to live in any type of situation where I could be of service to anything or anybody. I did not know how to do that. I'm a taker and I'm a loser. All I'm going to try to get is mine. What's in it for me? I'm not going to do this. If I don't get something, I'm not going to do that. What is this thing? I don't do anything for anybody. I'm a thorough loser because I'm such a taker. And I walked up to this guy after the meeting and I said to him, how do you learn how to live, Les? And he gave me a book or told me about a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous tonight, I want to let you know that's where it's at. If you can follow the simple instructions in that book, at least on the first 164 pages, you can stay sober and you can live a good life. And the reason I know that is because I went and got that book. I took it down off the shelf. I took it back to my cell and I started to follow the instructions that are written in our book called Alcoholics Anonymous. See, I did not believe people, so therefore it was not possible for me to trust another human being to do these things. But I read that book and things started to happen to me. And because I was so different in my case, I thought I would do the things it says to do in that book to prove to you I was different, that it wouldn't work for me. So I could go back to your meetings and denounce you. Tell you what a phony, or just sit back and glorify my differences, which is a sickness all of its own. I'm not like that. And sitting in a room with a man one day doing what our program, or at least our book says, is the fifth step, I heard myself say to this man that I was an alcoholic. It's what Alex read here tonight. The first step in our program of recovery says I have to admit to my innermost self that I'm alcoholic. That's the first step in recovery. The delusion that I'm like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. Once an alcoholic, always alcoholic. I'm 41 plus years worse off as far as successful drinking than I was when I got here. And you know why I know that? Because I sat in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous and watched that theory proved time and time and time again. I was told by an old man that I loved, who was the only father I've ever known when I was new, if you don't believe in this stuff in Alcoholics Anonymous, sit around and watch with your eyes open. You'll see it. They'll prove to you everything this book says here. The people will prove to you through experimentation and defiances and their differences and their wellness and how they've come to be normal, or whatever it is they're trying to be for Christ's sakes here. Their intellectual pursuit into something better and beyond will prove to you that this simple program is just too simple for a lot of people. So you almost have to be beat into an absolute state of reasonableness here. You know, they tell you that there's no dues or fees for Alcoholics Anonymous, but you have to pay a terrible, terrible price to be beat into such a state of nothingness that you're willing to grasp these simple tools that these simple fools are offering you to do. Thank God I was in that state. Thank God I was in that penitentiary. I would have never been able to walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous on the streets because I was an alcoholic. I didn't know I was an alcoholic until I'd taken my inventory and identified what I had written in that book or read in that book, the disease of alcoholism. And once I admitted and knew what was wrong with me, I knew that I was in a grip of a disease more deadly than anything that's ever been known to mankind. This disease I have, this thing called alcoholism I have, when you really want to get down to it, the reason they say in this book that you have to admit to your innermost self that you're alcoholic, you got to know you're in a life and death struggle here. This is not some place where you can just come in and get your goddamn court card signed and walk off out into the sunset somewhere. This is a matter of life and death. There are people here whose lives, very lives, hang and mine's one of them, on my ability to keep this thing so simple that I have to do the same thing today I did 41 years ago. I have to be willing to go to any length. I have to be willing to say, okay, when AA asks me to do anything. See, I walked out of that penitentiary on the 4th day of June of this year. It'd be 40 years ago I walked out of that penitentiary. I'm not armed with anything. I haven't gotten any smarter. I haven't gotten any keener or slicker or hipper. I had spent 19 months studying the first 164 pages of our book called Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all. And somewhere during that period of time, that 19 months, the idea dawned on me that maybe I could come out and sit in meetings with you. I said to myself, God, if they will give me the great privilege of coming and sitting in their meetings, I'll do anything they ask me to do. Anything. I'm very proud to tell you that for almost 40 years of my life, I have done what Alcoholics Anonymous has asked me to do. I'm very proud of that, because it's the only thing I've ever been loyal to in my life, except my gang. I'm loyal to my gang. I went to a meeting one night, and a little guy walked up to me, and I didn't know what he was going to do. He's going to teach me how to live in Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, I knew a lot about AA. That book teaches you a lot about this program of recovery. It teaches you a lot about a lot of things. But you see, living with you, without the incorporation of these principles, or not having the knowledge of what I'm supposed to do here, does not keep me from being selfish and self-centered. That's why this guy introduced himself to me, told me he's going to be my sponsor. He was my sponsor for 20 years. He taught me how to behave in AA. He taught me to have some love and respect for the people around me who were doing this deal. He taught me that this is it. Dawned on me one time, I was telling somebody once upon a time that when I walked out of that man's office in that penitentiary 40-some years ago after taking my 5th step, my search was over. I haven't looked for anything else. I haven't gone anywhere else. I haven't investigated any other way of life. I haven't tried to do anything else. I haven't looked at any other type of therapy. I haven't read any type of books to become better educated. I haven't tried to go to any type of self-help places. I've come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I've done what the book expects me to do, and I followed the directions of this sponsor who told me that he was going to be my sponsor. I guess he just figured that I needed help. And so he helped me. And he gave me great skills here. He incorporated in my life a set of structured principles that I still carry with me today. He said things like, you should get a job and go to work. I said, why? I mean, I'm sober, for Christ's sakes. I'm an AA. He says, you're a bum. That's why you should get a job and go to work. I said, I'm not a bum. He said, you're an AA bum, Johnny. Bums don't work, and you're not working, you're a bum. I'm going to meetings. Yeah, you're still a meeting going to AA bum. That's what you are. You get a job, go to work, get off of welfare. I told him, I'm not on welfare. I almost hit him when he told me that. I said, I've never been on welfare. Don't you ever say that to me again. He said, what do you call living in penitentiary? Self-supporting through your own contributions? He had it for everything. He wouldn't let me drive a car because I didn't have a driver's license. He made me sit in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, pay attention to what goes on there. Told me to shut up and listen. He said, shut up, listen. Keep quiet, sit still, for Christ's sake. Don't be disturbing other people. They may want to listen if you don't, jackass. Did you ever stop to think about that? And I said, no. He said, I didn't think so. People like you don't ever think about anybody but yourself. He brought home the selfishness and self-centeredness of me, even though I had studied our book and learned all about this magnificent program of recovery. I still knew nothing about common courtesy to the people around me. I still had no respect for your sobriety or the idea that maybe you wanted to stay sober whether I did or not. I was only interested in me. I went to meetings to see what I could get. I went to meetings because I thought I needed something. I didn't realize that I already had it. I went to a meeting. I'm going to go. I need to go to a meeting. I don't need to go to meetings anymore. I don't have to go to meetings. I get to go to meetings. That's what my sponsor taught me. He taught me that I could be of service. For the first time in my life, I could do something just for the hell of doing it. I could give a little just for the hell of giving it. That I didn't have to be all things to all people. That I didn't have to have my hand out. And he taught me a very simple thing. He explained a very simple word to me that just completely overlooked in a lot of places where I go. He said, our leaders are but trusted servants. And he told me a servant serves. There are no masters in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's only servers and takers. And the takers are all losers. And the servants are all winners. You got to serve this thing if you want to maintain any degree of happiness. You got to give a little for the hell of giving it. How else am I going to get rid of my selfishness and self-centeredness? If I just don't go to meetings, I don't stick out my hand, if I don't sponsor people, if I don't pat a newcomer on the back and tell them how good you're doing, and how else am I going to do it? What am I going to do? Sit around out there and figure out how much money I'm supposed to make? Sit around and figure out how high I'm supposed to go in school? See how many degrees I can get so I can tell everybody how wonderful I am? How else? A guy like me hasn't got any way to serve anything but myself out there. I can come to this program called Alcoholics Anonymous. I can make coffee. I can sweep the floors. I can pick up the chairs. I can drive a newcomer to a meeting. I can be happy and sit still and let you enjoy the meeting no matter how restless and irritable and discontent I am. I can sit and let you enjoy and hear what you have to hear, even though I'm so self-centered at that moment and so full of myself and my own actions at that moment that I can't hear or see. I can have enough respect and admiration for Alcoholics Anonymous and the people that maybe the alcoholic can hear, even though I don't want to. That's what my sponsor taught me. That's exactly what he taught me. He didn't teach me anything that I didn't already know. He just made it important to me. He explained it to me, why I should go sit in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. He didn't call it structure. He called it consideration for the people sitting next to him. That's what he called it. It's the act of thinking about the other person more than you are yourself. If you don't want to listen, let them listen. If you don't want to go, don't go. If you can't be of service to the group, for Christ's sake, stay home. Nobody needs you. You tell me things like that made me want to go and be of service. He turned this sickness of mine completely around by telling me things like that. If you don't want to go, it's all right. Don't go. What do you mean? I don't want to go. I don't go. I don't have to go. You go, don't you? Yeah, I'm going to go. Well, then why don't I have to go? He said, I didn't say you didn't have to go. I said, you don't want to go, you don't go. God, he was confusing to me. I mean, he just tricked me. That's what he did. He tricked me. He said, sit down and listen. I said, why? He said, one of these days you may need to know what they're saying. Why? Well, I don't know, but you need to know it. God, he's getting mad at him. And he'd never let me get by with anything. One night, I was standing at a coffee break, and some guy tapped me on the shoulder and told me he'd heard me speak, and what a miracle I was, and I got all wrapped up in that, and don't take me long to get gone, I'll tell you that, boy. And I'm sitting there, I'm back in the car going down this road, I'm listening, looking out the window, and Norm said to me, Jesus Christ, Johnny, what's the matter with you? I said, Norm, I'm a miracle, that's what's the matter with me. I just found that out. He said, you're not a miracle, jackass, AA is the miracle. You're just a small part of it. God, I never thought about that. The very idea that I'm attached to a miracle and not the miracle has kept me small enough to stay in Alcoholics Anonymous, be willing to engage in this magnificent program of recovery called Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a fantastic way of life. Everything that's good and decent in this world I already have already. I have a lovely home. I got a beautiful wife that I adore. I got a little job that I do that lets me pay my bills, lets me pay my taxes, pay for my car, my gasoline. I have become self-supporting through my own contribution. I don't have to come to Alcoholics Anonymous to get anything. I come to Alcoholics Anonymous to see what I can do here, see what I can give here. That way I never go to a bad meeting. If you want to always go to a good meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, Chuck told me a long time ago, he said, son, if you always want to go to a good meeting, always go to give. I said to him, God, Chuck, it's all right for you. You're always going to talk. I don't get to talk every time I go. He said, no, you don't understand, do you? You go to give. There's all kinds of ways to give in Alcoholics Anonymous. You give by general service, central service, institutional work. You set up the meetings, you sweep the floors, you do whatever you got to do, whatever it is you ask you to do. That's what you do. That's the way you give in Alcoholics Anonymous. That way it's always going to be a good meeting. I go to meetings, sometimes I'm so goofy I can't see straight. Wednesday night's a good time. I'm usually goofy by the time the meeting starts. I've got there at 4 o'clock and made coffee for 1,000 people, and nobody says how good the coffee is. But by the time I'm walking up that road at night after the meeting with my lovely wife and 4 or 5 of the guys I sponsor, and we're talking and laughing and giggling and carrying on, man, I don't have a care in the world. I really don't. I can't think of a problem. Right this moment, I can't think of a problem that I have. My life is so good, it's scary sometimes. I don't want to dwell on it too long because I try to figure out some way to screw it up on the way home tonight. It's just something I don't have that I really got to have. But if you're new here in Alcoholics Anonymous tonight, don't make it something that it isn't. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous is almost too simple for people like us. Chuck told me a long time ago that's the only thing wrong with it. It's just too simple. There are people here doing this thing and living a good life. Good life. You can look at them and see they're living a good life. I mean, you don't have to tell you. Look at them. Look at their faces. Look at the expressions on them. Look at the way they walk and talk and do with one another. See how they interplay with one another. Do all this kind of stuff. Jim was talking about that. Then look at the people who are hanging out by themselves over there with the frowns on their faces. And look like they just swallowed a goddamn persimmon or something. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I don't want to hang around. I lived in misery for all my life. When I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, got a glimpse of happiness. I ain't going to go nowhere else. There was no guy who they've made a national hero out of. His name was Martin Luther King. And he made a great statement, and I think it's a tremendous statement. He says, I've been to the top of the mountain, I've looked at paradise, I'm not going back into the valley. That's the way I feel about it. See, I have been to the top of the mountain and I have looked at paradise, and all I've ever seen when I got to the top of the mountain were people like you. I saw the happiness and I saw the joyousness and I saw the badness and the nonsense and the self-centeredness and all that. I'd rather be with the people who are happy. And the people who are happy that I see in Alcoholics Anonymous are the people who gather up in cars and drive up there all excited about seeing somebody that they just saw last night, for Christ's sake. That's how goofy we are. So if you're newer in Alcoholics Anonymous, hang on, you're for a hell of a ride. I don't know a better place in the world for us to be on Friday night to kick off the weekend in the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to let you know I'll be back. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.